What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. It is about that time. I already gave you the matchup, Triple G, Gennady Golovkin versus Curtis Stevens, so make sure you check it out. I will attach that video to the end of this video, so if you're watching it on a PC, you'll be able to click on the link. If not, sucks to be you. I want to give my prediction for this fight. This is a fight that I'm really looking forward to. The fight comes on tomorrow. HBO will be televised. Curtis Stevens has strung up some good wins, not against the best competition, but decent names. People like Saul Roman, who have been in the ring with the Gabriel Rosados, and we've seen Rosado hold his own against Triple G to a degree, and more recently, Peter Quillen, J. Leon Love. So he is a veteran, and he knocked Saul Roman out in devastating fashion. So you got a puncher in Curtis Stevens. Stevens is also, he's from Brooklyn. He's from New York. He was being represented, if any of you guys are into music and hip hop, Irv Gotti was the head honcho at Murder Inc., which had Ashanti, Lloyd, Ja Rule, of course, and they were actually co-managing him and representing him. He had a clique. They were called the Chin Checkers. Him and this other dude, I forgot how to pronounce his last name, so I'll just leave that, omit that from the video. But anyway, they were the next big thing out of New York. One thing I will say about New York and boxing, New York, not even just boxing, even music. Like if you look at rappers, a lot of times, oftentimes, New York is viewed as a mecca. It's a big place. There's a lot of talent. You got people like Robert De Niro and Denzel Washington, um, legendary rappers, Jay Z's and the Biggies and Nas. You got a lot of talented people who originate from New York. Um, so one thing I do notice is with boxers, they really celebrate the boxers and the people who come from out who make it out of New York. You know what I mean? Because there's some tough areas in New York, the five boroughs, and there's a lot of it's just hectic. That's why you hear people say like, "Oh, in the New York minute," it's real fast paced, and they really stand by the people. I remember Zab Judah. I know a friend. He's from Brooklyn, and he's older. He's an older cat. He's my brother's friend. And to this day, he still rides with Zab Judah no matter what. Even though Zab Judah has definitely put on inconsistent performances, he rides with them. He's like, Zab Judah's my boy, B. That shit's bananas, yo. Like, that's how they get down. But anyway, Curtis Stevens, he was the next big thing, the next big name beyond Zab Judah and whatnot. And he didn't quite live up to the hype, but he strung up some recent wins. He came back refocused, remotivated, and we'll see what he could do against a Gennady Golovkin. And then Gennady Golovkin, ever since he was televised for the first time against Gregor Prochazka, um, it's been fireworks. He's put on spectacular wins, spectacular knockouts. This guy, he fights with bad intentions. He looks like just a all around like clean cut type of dude. Looks like a humble person, but in that ring, he's a beast. He's wants a piece of the action. He wants with the Peter Quillens, the Sergio Martinez's, and Julio Chavez Sr., all of them. He wants what they have, and that's that recognition in the States. So he's been on a destructive warpath. I will say this about Gennady Golovkin. Um, the only thing with his resume is it's still not that strong based on the fact that he's fought a lot of people who are career 154 pounders who had to move up in weight, so they weren't equipped with it to deal with his punishing style. If you look at Gabe Rosado, 154 pounder, that fight was supposed to take place at a catch weight, and Gabe Rosado, just being a tough Philly fighter, decided, fuck that, I don't do catch weights, I don't believe in catch weights, which maybe he should have because he got fucked up. But he did try to hold his own against a big puncher, so props for having the courage and heart to at least stand in there with Gennady Golovkin. But anyway, Rosado, Ashita, um, the Gregors Proska, I mean, he was ranked at the time, and Gennady beat him, but he's lost since then, and I don't necessarily, I never looked at him as a world beater. He's a decent, solid, probably like C plus C fighter to me. Um, but Gennady Golovkin did his thing with him too. I think the biggest win, the most significant, most meaningful win on Gennady Golovkin's resume as a pro is the Matthew Macklin fight. I thought Matthew Macklin was going to give him a stern challenge. Matthew Macklin, he blasted Joachim Alcine in one round, so that was a good look for Macklin, and he gave Sergio Martinez fits in their fight before getting stopped in the 11th round. So to see Gennady Golovkin run through him in 3 rounds and just pretty much annihilate him and have him fighting scared, that was impressive. So again, I have to just keep seeing more. Just Gennady Golovkin basically has to do what he's been doing. As far as my prediction goes, I have Gennady Golovkin winning this, probably by stoppage. However, there is a big however. This fight is a good fight. It is a close fight. Some people you guys sometimes become such extremists. You're not even rational. Gennady Golovkin is a fucking human. He can have all the power in the world, but he's human. Um, he doesn't have more power than Mike Tyson because Mike Tyson was a heavyweight, and Mike Tyson has lost fights. So there's a lot that go into it. Just having power only doesn't mean anything. That's how you're taking care of your body outside of the ring, your mental state, your conditioning, and your training camps, how well you adjust. There's a lot of different factors. Power only. I mean, there's been a lot of George Foreman arguably has more power than Muhammad Ali. However, he lost that fight. So some people are unrealistic in the sense of you're like, oh, Gennady Golovkin's going to knock him out in the first round, which may happen because it's boxing. Anything can happen. But at the same time, Gennady Golovkin, it's just some of you guys don't really keep it realistic. And that's what I'm here to do is bring it back into perspective. So Curtis Stevens, a big puncher, way bigger puncher than someone like Nobuhiro Ishida, who had like 30 plus fights and 7 KOs or something really low, lasted 3 rounds. Yet you think Curtis Stevens is going to get knocked out in the first round. Now, like I said, it could happen. Abner Mars was knocked out in the first round and he was undefeated. It really could happen. Gennady Golovkin is that dangerous of a puncher. But some of your predictions just sound like you're just on the train, the Gennady Golovkin train, to the point where you think he's invincible. And that I don't think that. I think Gennady Golovkin is a lot smarter than people give him credit for. I think he's a lot more calculated. Therefore, I don't really see a first round knockout because I think it's going to be more of a filler out round for both fighters. Both fighters know what they're going up against. The title of this fight is Monsters Collide. They both bring power. So I don't think Gennady Golovkin is going to put himself out of position or in a dangerous position by just swinging for the fences, trying to get that guy out of there in the first round. Again, Gennady Golovkin is a person with over 350 plus amateur fights. He's fought the different styles, and I'm sure he's fought people who have power before, and I don't see him just being as relentless. Like if you're in there against a guy that you know can't hurt you, like a Shida or a Paulie Malignaggi, you may fight in a certain method. You might fight in a certain type of way, but if it becomes more real when you know that person definitely has a puncher's chance to knock you out as well. So I don't see a first round stoppage and like utter destruction in the first 10 seconds like some of you guys are saying. I do have Gennady Golovkin winning. Here's why. I think Gennady Golovkin, tons of amateur background and experience. So he's fought the different competitions, different types of fighters. As a pro, he has more momentum. I think even though he pulled some guys up or had to fight guys that were career 154 pounders moving up, he still had tough competition. Even though it was Gabe Rosado's first fight at 160, Gabe Rosado has proved that he can be a tough opponent at 160 against J. Leon Love and recently Peter Quillen. Now, this was Gabe Rosado's first fight at 160, so had he got acclimated to the fight, maybe he would have had a better showing. So I do take that into consideration. Matthew Macklin, like I said in this video, that's a significant win at middleweight. That's a great name to have, and especially in the fashion in which Gennady Golovkin got him out of there. He hit him with the body shot that he was not going to recover from. You have Gregor's Proska, and just overall better competition. Now you look at Curtis Stevens, and he definitely has a puncher's chance, but at the same time, he's been far more inconsistent. He lost to Darrell, he lost to Jesse Brinkley, he got knocked out by a journeyman who went on to do nothing in the sport, and that's Primera. So in cases like this, I'm 9 times out of 10, unless I see something like some exception, I'm going to go with the person who's been giving me more consistent appearances. And Gennady Golovkin by far has done that. He's undefeated. He has a very high KO ratio. It's not out of the question for Curtis Stevens to win a fight, but I, for a prediction standpoint, it's hard for me to pick a guy who's been very inconsistent. When you look at fighters like Zab Judah or Chavez Jr., and they're just like wild cards, loose cannons, and you don't really know what version of them are going to show up. If I see Chavez Jr. fight, is he going to look like focused like he did in the Andy Lee fight? Is he going to get fucked up for 11 and a half rounds and rally in the 12th like Sergio Martinez? Is he going to look like pure shit against Brian Vera? It's like I don't know how to gauge it. So therefore, I'm going with the person who's giving me consistency, because in boxing, consistency is a whole hell of a lot better than the opposite. So I got to give it to Gennady Golovkin. I think he has the momentum. He definitely has the smarts and the skills. I think a lot of people put Gennady Golovkin based on his power into a category of a fighter, which he really isn't. I think he is, again, more of a calculative puncher, more of a boxer puncher, kind of like a Canelo. Some people look at Canelo as a come forward fighter, brawler, like the quote unquote traditional Mexican fighter, but I don't view Canelo as a come forward Marcos Maidana, Brandon Rios type of fighter. I think guys like Canelo and Triple G are showing that they have other tools in the tool shed. They're showing different dynamics in their arsenal, and they have boxing ability as well as power. So that's good for Gennady Golovkin, and I think it'll come into play. Just to be fair, like I said, if Ashita went 3 rounds, and I don't know that his chin is a whole hell of a lot better, I would say probably a TKO stoppage around rounds 5, 6, or 7 in favor of Gennady Golovkin. And again, it could go either way, but I'm giving it to the guy who's been far more consistent and has more momentum and has had stiffer competition. So that's how I see it. Curtis Stevens, he may impress, but that's what you get when you get a loose cannon wild card fighter like Curtis Stevens. You don't really know, like, because I didn't expect him to lose to a journeyman in Primera, but he did. So he might shock us, he might surprise us, and do the unthinkable and stop Gennady Golovkin. But from what I've heard, Gennady Golovkin has never been knocked out nor knocked down in his amateur or professional career. So I think the guy might have a chin. It looks like he has a chin, but again, I say might because I haven't seen that chin tested against the upper echelon in his division. I haven't seen him up against a fighter like Sergio Martinez or a Peter Quillen or even an acclimated Gabriel Rosado. So I don't know exactly what his chin is like. Amateurs versus pro, different ball game. Let me know what you guys think of this prediction. Let me know what your prediction is. Who do you have winning this? Like I said, either fighter can take it, but I'm going with the fighter who showed poise, who showed composure, especially in the Macklin fight, which is his most recent performance against a top competitor. And I think he's going to figure Curtis Stevens out. Curtis Stevens kind of seems like a fighter who will get frustrated and throw the game plan out the window, whereas Gennady Golovkin seems very poised, very composed, and he's pretty accurate. I've seen levels of improvement in different fights where his defense shows more than others. And a lot of times fighters fight to their competition, which isn't always a great thing. But if you have the power to do so, hey, I mean, who am I to tell you any different? Like, Gennady Golovkin doesn't necessarily move his head a lot, but going in against a Ishida, maybe he doesn't have to. Maybe he's not worried about it. Maybe he just wants to get this guy out and make a statement. So, based on who you're fighting, that's not to say Gennady Golovkin can't do some of these things or be more of a pure boxer. Maybe he just hasn't had an opponent who forced him to do that. And I've seen this. I've seen great fighters make those adjustments. Floyd Mayweather is obviously one that comes to mind. In the Zab Judah fight, he was getting pieced up early on, and he had to go to another level and turn it up a notch. And I also even seen Floyd Mayweather, in my opinion, go to another level in the Cotto fight. Cotto brought something out of him. I heard Mayweather was battling a cold, and he had to dig deep and actually kick it up a notch because Cotto came to win and Cotto came to fight. So I think Gennady Golovkin will do much of the same. And another reason why I put Curtis Stevens at a disadvantage is his height. Gennady Golovkin is taller than him, even though Curtis Stevens has a slight gap, slight advantage on his reach. I think based on his style of fight, it's going to be harder to hit Gennady Golovkin with some of those short shots, and I think he might have to overextend himself and reach with his punches, trying to land clean or land that home run haymaker shot on Gennady Golovkin. Plus, Gennady Golovkin in the past has used a great jab, a very strong, stiff jab, to the point where it's a jab, but it's almost like a dangerous punch with Gennady Golovkin. It's very snapping, very authoritative, and it's a punch that can hurt you. And I think that's going to set up a lot of things for Gennady Golovkin, and that height differential may come into play. On the contrary, Curtis Stevens, early in his career, he did fight at light heavyweight, so he's used to fighting bigger guys, so I may be completely wrong, but the way I see it, I would look at it as Curtis Stevens as a disadvantage, but who knows? It's boxing, anything can happen, and like I said, Curtis Stevens was fighting at light heavyweight when he first started early in his career, so he might be used to guys who are much taller than him, much longer arms than him, and he was able to knock some of those guys out, but those guys weren't Gennady Golovkin. Let me know what you guys think of this matchup. I think it's a hell of a matchup. Two punchers. It's going to be entertaining. And I don't see it making it to the 12th round. Let me know what you guys think. As always, hate, comment, or subscribe. Till next video is Ego, signing off.